To start with our crochet cookie ornament kit, we're going to start by taking our tan yarn and making a slip knot. More instructions about details of slip knots, chains, and stitches can be found on the Crochet Basics guide. Here we made our slip knot and we're going to pull it tight around our hook so it's snug and can move around. And then we're going to make 2 chains by pulling through our working yarn through the loop on our hook twice. There's one right there and there's one closer to the hook. In the chain furthest away, you're going to make 6 single crochets. You're going to make them all in the same spot so that it rounds and creates a small circle. Here we have a nice small circle. You can see there's 6 stitches on the outside. And to continue with our next row, we're going to go in those stitches, creating a taller circle that will be nice and flat. You can insert your stitch marker here. I do it in the stitch that I just finished, so it's easier to keep track as I go around in a circle. For this next round, in the first stitch, we're going to make 2 single crochets. This is called an increase. The first one's a little hard to insert, so you might have to play around your hook in the stitches a little bit, but it will go through. Here's single crochet 1, and then the same hole, we're going to make a second single crochet. Now we have 2 total. In the next stitch, we're going to do another increase of 2 single crochets. We're going to repeat this all the way around, repeating the increase 6 times for a total of 12 stitches. To do our last one, we're going to take out our stitch marker, complete our increase, and then when we're finished, we're going to put the stitch marker back in the last stitch that we made. Now we finished round 2. There are 12 stitches total. For our next round, we're going to do 1 increase and then 1 single crochet. So we're going to start with our increase, which you're probably an expert of by now, are 2 single crochets in the same hole. And then in the next stitch, we're going to do 1 single crochet. We're going to repeat that pattern all the way around, 2, 1, 2, 1, for a total of 6 times to get 18 stitches at the end. Here you can see the increase, 1 single crochet, another increase, and then 1 single crochet. Now we just finished round 3. We have 18 stitches. I'm going to put my stitch marker back. And then for the next round, we're going to do 1 increase and then 2 single crochets, 1 in each stitch. So there was our increase. Next stitch we do 1 single crochet, and in the next stitch we do 1 single crochet. We're going to repeat this 6 times. At the end, you'll have a total of 24 stitches. For the next round, you're going to do 1 increase and then 3 single crochet. I'm sure you're starting to see the pattern here, and this is how we're going to make our circle big. We're going to do this up until we get increase 1, 5 single crochets all the way around for 42 stitches. That was round 5. Now for round 6, we're going to do an increase and then 4 single crochets. Here's our increase, 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, another one, and 1 more for 4 single crochet. For our last round, we're going to do our increase and then 5 single crochets, and we're going to do that 6 times. You're going to make 8 of these cookie bases for all 4 cookies at the end. Now that we finished our cookie, we like the size, it's about the size of my hand. We're going to make a nice long tail with our working yarn, use our scissors, and then cut it. Then with our hook, we're going to pull through. We're going to try to get that string all the way off so it's not a loop anymore. This will make sure that it can't come undone. I like to pull mine a little tighter just so it's snug. And you're going to make 8 of those cookie bases. For our ornament loops, using the tan, we're going to chain 12. So that was our slip knot. I'm putting it on the hook and then pulling through the working yarn 12 times. We're about halfway there. This is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. We're going to cut our yarn, leaving a bit of a tail for sewing. And just like before, we're going to pull through. And then I like to make sure mine are a little tighter, so I pull both ends so that I know my knots on each end are nice and tight. Now we're going to take our tapestry needle and sew, and we're going to put it through one end of the ornament loop. Then we're going to take our base. This is the front and this is the back with that middle tail. The front and then the back. Starting on the back, we're going to sew our chain loop so that it makes a small little hanging loop on the back. You could do this any way you'd like. I go in and out through the stitches and through the first and last chain of the hook. But it doesn't really matter how you do it as long as it stays. Here you can see I'm going back and forth and making sure a majority of the hook is on the back side because I want to hide it as much as possible. As you can see from the front, we can't see any of the tails because I want to make sure I leave them in the back. I'm then going to do a square knot just to make sure it doesn't come undone and it stays out of the way. Then I'm going to trim it, and you're going to do that to 4 of your cookie bases. I give it a little tug just to make sure it's nice and tight and it's not going anywhere. Alright, now we're going to start with our icing, and we're going to start the same way we started the other circle. With our slip knot, chain 2, and then 6 single crochets in the first chain. I'm adding my stitch marker so I know where the end of my round is, and And then my next round is going to be 6 increases. It's going to be just like the tan with the cookies. So it increases 2 single crochet. So I'm going to make sure I do that in the first stitch. Now that we finished round 2, round 3 is going to be an increase and then 1 single crochet. At the end, you'll have a total of 18 stitches. I did that all the way up to increase 3 single crochets. And we're going to have their icing. We're going to repeat that in green as well. To add the sprinkles on the icing, we're going to take some green and red yarn, and we're going to start with one color and put it through a tapestry needle. And then starting from the back, we're going to embroider small lines on the icing. We started from the back and we pulled through. We want a bit of a tail on the other end so it doesn't go all the way through and come undone. And I like to do 5 of each color just because I like having a pattern, but you can do as many or as little sprinkles as you want. Now I pulled that out, and I'm going to do the same thing with the red yarn. Alright, then I'm going to pull it off. The back side's super messy, but that front side is nice and beautiful with all those sprinkles. I like to square knot some of my ends together, just because it makes me feel better about things coming undone. Doesn't matter which ends you put together. You see here I'm doing red and green, but you want to make sure all those ends are attached, and then we're going to trim them so it's a little easier to sew when we're ready for that. That was our white string from the middle. I'm just trimming. Again, this will just make it a little easier when we're sewing. And we're going to do the same thing with green yarn. For the M&Ms on the M&M cookie, we're going to start very similar. We're going to slip knot, chain 2, and then instead of doing 6 single crochets, we're only going to do 3. This will make our circle just a little smaller. You're going to want to make 5 in green, 5 in red, and then 4 in white. When you finish with the 3 stitches, you're going to insert your hook in the very first stitch that you made. You're going to yarn over, pull through, and then pull through the last loop. You're not actually making a stitch as much as pulling through. Then you're going to make a nice long tail for sewing, cut it, and then move your hook so the tail goes all the way through. And that's how you make the M&Ms. For embroidering the chocolate chips on the chocolate chip cookie, I'm going to take my brown yarn and put it on my tapestry needle. Starting from the back, we're going to embroider lines just like we did with the sprinkles. And we're going to do it on both bases for this. One base should have a ornament hook and the other should not. I'm making these bigger than I did the sprinkles because I love chocolate chip cookies with big chocolate chips in them. I like going over each line twice. This just gives a little chunkier version, and I make sure they look like chocolate chips and not sprinkles. You're going to repeat this method across 2 bases for the cookies. And you want to make sure your pretty side is the front of your cookie, front of your tan base, because we want them to look nice at the end. To sew the M&Ms on, we're going to take our tapestry needle and put our tail of the M&Ms on. And you're going to hold it where you want it. While there is a front and a back, you might not be able to tell because they're so small, and that's okay. They look about the same that small. And then going from the front to the back, you're going to repeat that over and over again, going through the outside stitches until it is nice and secure on it. You're going to repeat this with all of the M&Ms across 2 of the tan bases. One should have a ornament loop and the other should not. Once I feel like it's not going anywhere, I'm going to take it out and I'm going to put my needle on the other piece of green yarn. This is probably from the middle, but we can't really tell, again, it's small. And then pull it through. And then of course, like usual, I'm going to do a square knot just to make sure it doesn't come undone. And you're going to repeat that with all of your M&Ms. To sew the icing to the cookie base, you're probably understanding this by now, but we're going to put it on our needle. You can see my yarn splitting, so you might have to pull a little harder. We're going to hold our icing on there, and then you're going to go up and down through the outside loops of the icing onto the cookie, so that it's nice and secure. You can repeat this with the green icing as well. This is right at the end. I'm showing that I'm leaving the tail in the back. You can square knot it to the middle of the icing, the middle of the tan if you'd like. To sew both bases together, this is going to work for all 4 cookies. You're going to sandwich the 2 ends together. For the icing, only one of them has something on it, but obviously for the others you want to make sure the sides match. Just like all your sewing before, here you're going to go in and out through the outside stitches, the last row that you made. You're going to repeat this all the way around, tucking those extra yarn tails and everything into the cookie. Here I'm at right at the end. As you can tell, it's not perfectly even. For me, that is a-okay. If that's something that bothers you, you could take scissors and you can poke in the end a little bit and then sew over it, just so it gives a more round look. And if you feel it necessary, you can sew all the way around again if you don't feel like it's tight enough. To hide our last tail, we're going to insert right by where we were, and then you're going to go anywhere where it's tan. And you're going to pull through and take off your needle. Then you're going to trim it right as close as you can. If it sticks out a little bit, I don't know if you can tell, but mine does. Take your scissors or your hook or your needle and just poke in the end. You're going to repeat this with all 4 cookies and I hope you enjoyed making your ornaments.